Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by the ghost of good movie trailers. Remember when previews didn't ruin the movie? Let's dim the lights and start the show.
Welcome, everybody, to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by The Slaughtered Prince. Get a real good night of sleep at the end to end all ends. Stay a night at The Slaughtered Prince. Welcome, everyone, to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And we're filmmakers. We make things, short films. We write scripts, produce music, produce all those things behind the camera. We act in front of the camera. Pretty much all phases of production, especially whenever you don't have $5 million to pay other people to do it. And so we live all that life and then look at films to see and get inspiration and maybe pick apart how other people are able to do it themselves. And so, yeah, I don't know. I got so many thoughts, and we'll see where that all leads. But what are we covering today, man?
Right into it, because there's no way to introduce this film other than just doing it. Today we are covering There Will Be Blood. So if you haven't seen this film, please pause the episode. I guess we're going to ruin stuff. I don't know if I guess we'll ruin it. I don't know. We're just going to talk about it. There's no other way.
I think that's the best we can say. We'll just talk about it. Yeah, we'll dive into story and writing. We'll talk about plot versus character, and I don't know, other such stuff and things and stuff.
All right, here we go. All right, a quick synopsis of the film. A story of family, religion, hatred, oil, and madness, focusing on a turn-of-the-century prospector in the early days of the business. It's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, screenplay by Paul Thomas Anderson, based on the novel by Upton Sinclair, cinematography by Robert Elswit, featuring Daniel Day-Lewis as Daniel Plainview, Paul Dano as Eli and Paul Sunday, Dillon Freasier as H.W., Sidney McCallister as Mary Sunday, and Kevin J. O'Connor as Henry Plainview.
I have a competition in me. I want no one else to succeed. I hate most people.
That part of me is gone. Working and not succeeding. All my failures has left me. I just don't care.
Well, if it's in me, it's in you. There are times when I look at people and I see nothing worth liking. I want to earn enough money I can get away from everyone.
What will you do about your boy?
I don't know. Maybe it'll change. Has your sound come back to you? I don't know. Maybe no one knows that. Doctor might not know that.
Where's his mother?
I don't want to talk about those things. I see the worst in people, Henry. I don't need to look past seeing them to get all I need. I've built up my hatreds over the years, little by little. Having you here gives me a second breath. I can't keep doing this on my own. With these, people.
Okay, where do we start?
Where do we start, bro? Take it away.
Okay. All right. 323 episodes, and finally we're doing this movie. PTA's finest work. This to me is like the godfather of modern cinema to me. It's just, it's flawless without trying is what it feels like. It's perfect without trying. There's never a moment where you're not uncomfortable in the entire movie. And there's moments where you think you might be comfortable, like that, but that's very uncomfortable. That whole, comfortable meaning Daniel Plainview is a monster in every sense of the word. And yet he also has this other side of him that seems loving. Like he loves his son. I don't care what you say, even with the ending, the way that it is throughout this whole movie, like he has, he doesn't have much patience, but he still loves his son. I mean, it's really hard for him to leave him on the train, when he leaves him on the train and he's worried about him, but only so much as to make sure that he's alive. But then he's more worried about the oil, right? So there's always this really uncomfortable kind of, I cannot believe this guy exists, right? And then you have these moments like the one you just played where you kind of feel like, okay, he's a little human, but he's describing his inhumanity in this moment of him being calm and like, open, right? He's opening up to his quote unquote brother, and which makes me as a viewer feel a little bit more comfortable, like he is human, but he's explaining his inhumanity in those breaths. And it's so awkward. The entire movie is like that. What does the screenplay look like? Is it like 47 pages? Like, really? I mean, this is a 2.5 hour movie and it feels like there are 17 words. I mean, there's a lot of words in it. But it feels like a very short screenplay in terms of,
especially the
words
the first
on the page,
half hour, right? Because there is no words, there's no dialogue in the first half hour, which is why you feel that way. I felt that way coming in. I was like, is there any dialogue in this thing? And you're right, it's probably like 5 pages of, I'll see if I can find that script. It's got to be out there because I'm pretty sure it won best screenplay, adapted maybe, I don't know. But
it's amazing. It's amazing. It feels like and I don't know if he did, but it feels like he wrote this for Daniel Day-Lewis, knowing that you can just stay with him, and do nothing or say nothing and get the story you need from him because he's that good. I mean, he's one of my favorite actors of all time. And the fact that he hasn't done, 1,000 movies is one of the reasons. And this to me is his best work. And other people might say other things. I know you loved Phantom Thread and stuff, and I don't know what you think is his best performance, but to me, he disappears here. He just is this guy. He's made this guy, remember, this isn't how Daniel Day-Lewis talks. Right. And this isn't how he acts. He's a very gracious man. He invented this character from very little dialogue, right? From very little, there's probably, I would imagine the script has a lot of like description in it. Like maybe it says like he internally gets mad or something, like in a more artistic way. But to take that and actually do it and perform it the way that he does is incredible. One of my favorite performances in any film is Daniel Day in this movie, because I feel it every single moment, whether he is on screen or not. I feel his presence. If he's not on screen, I'm wondering where he is. We just talked about the scene of him on the beach with his brother when he realizes his brother is not his brother. And then he walks off to go into the ocean, and we stay with his brother just sitting there. The entire time I'm wondering, where did he go? Where is he? What is he about to do? That's only because of his performance. I mean, yes, it has everything, maybe not only. It has everything to do with where's the camera? What is it doing? oh, it's not doing anything. Okay. Like, what are we seeing in the frame? And then also the lighting is incredible in every single shot of this movie. And, the setup, like the pacing is fantastic. So all of that leads to me wondering where he is and what he's doing and what he's thinking, because a lot of times he's not saying anything. Or if he is saying something, he's not really meaning what he's saying. He's meaning something else. And if you know who he is, if you know how he is, then you might imagine what he's actually thinking when he's saying these things. But if you're just watching this movie for the first time and you're kind of like, you go on this journey learning about this guy. First, you think he's a hard ass. He breaks his leg in a mine. He drags himself, looks like miles to civilization. No words. And then this guy dies, and he takes this son in, and he like treats him like his son. So you're thinking, okay, maybe he's a good guy, and then he's gracious to the people that he's trying to buy their land to drill, and I'm a family man, and, like, you'll see I'm an oil man, and whatever. And so you're thinking, I don't know who this guy is. I'm going to assume the best. And then we learn throughout it's not the best, but then there's these moments of him being gracious. The guy dies in the well. We have to bury the guy, so we're not going to work. We're going to bury him at noon. We're not going to. Yes, I'll give you money for your church, and But then, anyway, you go on this journey, and PTA. I don't know where this came from, but like, this is one of these movies I feel like he had it exactly in his head. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'll watch a movie and you'll think, okay, that probably was an accident that happened, or it turned out to be this way, and it was just a happy accident, right? I think some of those things happened in Joker, in the original Joker. And that happens all the time in movies. But I don't feel like there's a single shot in this film that is not completely planned out and was already seen by PTA in his head beforehand. It just feels so methodical and perfect, from the camera movement to the lighting to the motivations of the characters to the blocking. Just phenomenal. I cannot say enough good things about this movie. It is heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching to watch and to ingest, and yet I could turn it back on and watch it right now instantly. And I don't know why that is, other than I love seeing Daniel Day's performance and the way that they captured it. So yeah. I'll stop there because I'm curious what you think after. When was the last time you saw this movie?
Theaters.
Oh. What?
Yeah.
You have not seen this since, when was this, 2007?
Yeah,
when did this come
right.
out?
I was in my mid-20s when this came out. And,
my God. Okay, please elaborate.
Yeah, I watched this in theaters and it was just like everyone else, floored, but had zero desire to ever watch it again. I don't know, there's some elements that make me certainly uncomfortable. Primarily the setting. Like, this is about my least favorite era of any period piece. It's my least favorite era and location. Like, if you want me to really resist going to your film, make it in the Midwest or in some kind of deserty area where everyone's clothes are terrible, the buildings look hot and sweaty and not insulated.
Could not agree more.
You know what I mean? It's just like the worst.
Yeah.
But it is still compelling, and I knew that in the theater. So the setting itself is not fun. All the religious elements also not fun. Different for me in my mid-20s, like, but not so different as you might imagine. In my mid-20s, I was still very religious. And so it was easy for me to judge like the Paul Dano character, Eli Sunday, for being like a hypocrite and someone who is abusing faith and his position of authority in the church. All those things I appreciated, but also didn't like seeing as a representation of faith, because it was a broad brush to paint all faith with. And so it made me uncomfortable for those reasons. And revisiting it, I think all those things largely still hold true, slightly different. Now that I'm more than willing to broad brush religion, but it still makes me uncomfortable.
In fact, anxious.
Yeah, it still makes me anxious though, because I'm like, I don't want to feel like I'm in church again. I don't want this. But it wasn't as bad revisiting it as I thought it was going to be. I still don't like hanging out in this setting, and I still don't like hanging out in the religious aspects, but I do absolutely love, and same things that I loved the first time around, which was everything you loved. It's Daniel Day, and watching him go for it, it's the writing, and exactly what you said, man. You just don't know what he's gonna do next. Like the tension you get watching that realization when Daniel Plainview makes that reference, this inside joke. He thinks he's making an inside joke with his brother, right? I said we'll get him drunk and go down to the peach party. And he's laughing and he's looking over and he's waiting for the reaction that he doesn't get. And he's like, yeah. It's like, why isn't he responding? Like the peach party. Like he's just waiting for him to get it. And you watch this slow, I don't know, it could have been an hour, it could have been 15 seconds. Like this realization crawl over his face of, this isn't who I thought he was. Is this my brother? And then he gets up. He has this full realization. It's so wonderful to watch because it's all subtextual. And as the audience, we get to have that realization with him because we get convinced when he gets convinced. Like, oh, maybe that is his brother. Now, there's a part of it in the back of our mind waiting to find out, like, is there more to this guy's story? And then we get it. And we realize it as he's realizing it. And then he leaves the frame. And we just sit in this whitish shot because it's wide enough to get his whole body, but it's not wide enough to see what Daniel's doing off screen. And we know this guy's got violence in him. Like there's something about him, and it probably stems from him taking the kid. And there's something that never sits right with us. Like, I think you're right. I think we are assuming good intentions, right? That he's just looking after this kid. And yet, this is after HW's lost his hearing. And we saw how he handled his son's injury, which was grave concern, no question. But then the oil caught fire. And that became priority one. And now we're watching him just sit, deal with the oil. And when Fletcher, his number one, his right-hand man, is realizing, okay, I think we got this under control. And he's like, he asks him, is HW is he okay? And he's like, no, he's not. And the Fletcher's reaction is what our reaction is. Like we're empathizing through Fletcher whenever he says, well, where is he? Mess hall. And he's just watching him like, what are you doing here? Fletcher goes to take care of his son where Daniel won't. And that triggers everything we need to know about what HW's real purpose is in his life. It's to serve oil. And now fast forward several scenes, and we're sitting here with him in the frame. We're like, this guy does not like to be taken advantage of. He doesn't like someone coming between him and his oil. And suddenly we got this question mark. How is he going to respond because the first thing whenever he has this realization is to leave the frame. And that's such a wonderful tension because now we still don't know what the line in the sand is for this guy. And we're in the space where there's so much tension of what's he going to do with this new information? And it's just beautiful. God, it's so wonderfully drawn because we have no idea what's next. And then the ultimate tension is entitling this movie, There Will Be Blood.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're anticipating.
Oh, great point. I didn't even...
So we're anticipating blood will flow the same way that we're watching oil flow. We're expecting blood to flow. And what a great title because you don't know where that enters. And so he's just kind of built this mountain of tension. And you're just anticipating the whole time because we're just same as him, drilling down into the ground, right? Just one hammer stroke at a time. And you're just waiting. What's it going to be? What's going to be the thing that triggers this volcano of gushing blood, And so it's just, God, it's good. And it all stems from the two masterminds at work, Paul Thomas Anderson and Daniel Day-Lewis, just kind of coming together. And I'm sure there's a lot of other actors who could have stepped in and done some very wonderful work. Like John C. Reilly, I think, could have given you a wildly different performance. It would have been incredibly different, but just as compelling. Like, there's nothing in me that doesn't think John C. Reilly couldn't have stepped in and absolutely crushed it and gotten the Best Actor award. It just would have been different. But Daniel Day-Lewis stepping in and doing what he's doing, oh man, I'm glad. As much as I would have loved to see what
Why did you suggest John C. Reilly? I'm just curious. Like, did that just pop into your head, or because I agree with you,
right? It's unsuspecting that John C. Reilly would do this role because we think of him as a comedic actor, but John C. Reilly's got some stuff in the basement, man. We haven't seen it yet, and I really hope one day we will. He's just got some stuff in the basement that is every bit as grave as what Daniel Day-Lewis can give you. And I just see it in his performances. And I think it might've been, was it Daniel Day? It was, I've talked about this on the show before. There's an actor, and it might've been Daniel Day, who was watching a John C. Reilly performance and sees him wake up on screen. He's watching a movie and he sees him wake up and he's like, did you see that? It's like he really just woke up. How do you do that? How do you do that? He's just like blown away by his ability. And that, ever since like he made that observation, I've just watched John C. Reilly when he's doing his, any role, comedic or not. And then revisiting when we did Magnolia and watching John C. Reilly play this cop, and he's got so much magic in him. I think it's the idea that he does the same thing that Daniel Day does, which is his physicality shifts when you watch his performances, his voice shifts around, his mannerisms, all those things really do taper onto whatever performance he's doing. And so knowing that he's worked with PTA before, it just wouldn't surprise me if he'd given him a shot at this film, because it just makes sense. Whereas, like, as much as I love Denzel, and he would have stepped in and crushed this role, I think we still would have saw 90% of Denzel that you've seen in other roles. It would have just been super intense and like it would have fit beautifully in this movie, but it would have still been Denzel. Whereas John C. Reilly wouldn't have been John C. It would have been Daniel Plainview, and so it's interesting to think about. We've done this a couple times on the show, I think, where we were just like, who else would we have wanted to see? And I don't know, to your point, I don't know.
No, okay. I was just curious because I totally agree, and I don't even know why.
I know, right?
Like, I fully, and you explained it really well, but I fully agree that I think that just like there are certain actors where they're known for something, but you can just tell that there's something else in them that could do something completely opposite. What's his name? Oh my gosh. Jim Carrey. Great example. I think that, let's say, for example, he hadn't done all of his, really meaningful, I would say, for lack of a better term, work yet, but we have been doing this podcast. We would probably see there's probably something else to him, So I would love to see John C. Reilly in something like this, where he's just a badass in a bad way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting.
Oh, and so watching this film unfold, man, I think the reason it's such a good fit is because this is what I see is a character study. It's not a plot-driven film, right? Because to me, there is no real plot here. It's about an oil man. And so the stakes aren't really that big and aren't really that crystallized, right? We see him strike oil right from the get-go. And so what's driving the stakes? Are we just curious how much money he'll make? No. We're not like anticipating his son finding out that he's not his biological son, right? Because he's treated and raised him like he is. So there's no part of us just like, oh, that secret's going to come out, because there's no fear of it coming out. There's never any like apprehension, or that stake is never raised throughout the film. It's just kind of given he's under his wing, and he treats him, he cares about him. He sends for a teacher. He makes him his partner. Right, and there's that comment early on, whenever he's on the train platform, and he meets this other oil guy stepping off the train, and he makes that comment about HW. Let me know if you ever need me to draw up some contracts for you, boy. You get half of what your dad's making, and yet we don't really ever feel that as a stake either. It's not like, is HW going to get his fair shake? I don't know. It doesn't really seem to matter, right? Like, he's treating his son like an equal, and it's really not until we get to the end where that line gets drawn in the sand, which is why what are we doing here? And so it's a character study, which is all about putting one person through all kinds of scenarios and contrasts with other types of characters. Right? Discovering who Daniel Plainview is. Watch him around different people, situations. Each scene fleshes out who he truly is and what he'll do to get whatever it is that he wants. And so what does he want? Right? And you might say oil, but I don't think oil is really the point at all. The point is to win. That's his real goal. That's his real desire.
You're right. He explains that in the clip you showed. Yeah,
absolutely. Right. And that's his biggest character desire, and also his biggest character flaw. Like, I don't think he cares at all that Standard Oil is dealing dishonestly. Right. He cares that they don't beat him. He doesn't want to lose to them. And so from the very beginning, he sees, whenever he goes, Paul tips him off, Paul Sunday, tips him off about this land on the Sunday ranch. And so before he ever steps foot, he's already planned out how to approach this thing. Once he knows where it is, he starts looking at all the land around it. He's like, where are they buying up? Okay. And so before he ever sees oil, he already knows exactly the game plan, who his competition is, and how he's going to go in there and beat them. Right. And so he does. He goes in, he spots it, like he has this whole deal, and from the beginning, he doesn't want to give up hardly any money at all, right? He meets Eli, but really it's Eli's dad that he's after. And once he finds oil, what's he tell his son? His son asks him, like, how much are we going to pay them? Who? The Sunday family? And he's like, we're not going to give them oil prices. No, we'll give them quail prices. This is all about competition. I got a competition in me. And so he's doing this whole thing just to beat them. Because what's it matter to him if it's $3,000 or $10,000? I mean, really, he's going to make millions. It's just about winning. And that's all he cares about.
I was thinking that too. It's like, what do you care? Like when he's asked for the, what's his name? Paul Dano's character. What's his name?
Eli.
In front of me. Oh yeah, Eli. When Eli walks up to him across the pool of oil, and he asks him for his money for the church, and he just gets slapped. Daniel just slaps him, and then he rubs him in the mud. Like, why? Just give him the $5,000. You made hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions. Like, just whatever.
And you'll be rid of this guy. Right? Like, you'll get rid of this guy and you don't even have to deal with him anymore. And it'll only cost you $5,000. Like, a headache gone. But he's so much.
And it's a $5,000 you agreed to.
Right. True.
You already said you would do it. Anyway.
And so that's a really fascinating, if you watch this film with that in mind and just kind of see how he treats people, does he, to your point, does he honor his agreements? Obviously he does not. And even when he gets to the end And this is a really fascinating aspect to it, right? When Eli's there and he strings him along, he's like, yeah, okay, 100,000 and 5,000 also from what you agreed to give me with interest. It's only fair. You get some, all you need to do is tell me you're a false prophet and God is a superstition. And he does. He gets him to do it the same way he does in his sermons, right? In the same way that he got him to do it, to the way Eli got Daniel to get up on stage and confess in front of all these people. And he makes him go through this whole charade only to tell him, not only are you not getting anything, there's nothing to get. I've already taken it from you. He was winning. And the fascinating part of that whole little speech to me is whenever he tells him about his brother. Your brother's the real prophet. I gave him $10,000 cash in hand. Now he's making $5,000 a week off his oil. He's a good oil man. We don't know that. He didn't give him $10,000. He gave him $600. He's lying to his brother just to humiliate him, just to rub it in a little bit more. Like, it's so much in keeping with his character. And so the bigger question you could ask is, what does his character represent? Maybe you could say it represents big oil. I don't really think so. This to me comes across as like a anti-capitalist sentiment of the way business people and capitalists take advantage of society and culture, and then drawing a parallel, an analysis to faith and churches and saying that they're doing the same thing. They're just not doing it as well. And ultimately they're going to get, crushed by capitalists. And there's all kinds of, and the fun thing about this movie is you could also take something else completely from it. I always remember this apocryphal comment from Hemingway. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if anyone knows if it's true or not, but what I'd heard was The Old Man and the Sea, this novel, this short novella even of Hemingway's about this old man past his prime, barely hanging on. He goes out to sea, right? And he captures a really big fish. I forget what it is, a marlin or a tuna or something. And, he's bringing it back to shore, and that's his whole goal. And so I won't get into all the details, but people, and the old man doesn't even have a name, literally. That's his name in the book. It's Old Man. And so when people talk about it, right, they say, the old man represents, the American spirit and how we're struggling to hold on in post-World War I society or whatever. People just kind of pull out all these metaphors and symbolisms. And Hemingway just kind of shrugs, is like, you know what? If you just tell a really good story, people will make up their own meaning to it. And I think that's largely true, whether or not he actually meant a bunch of symbolism in a story or not, which I would be surprised if he didn't, but who knows? And the same thing I think applies to There Will Be Blood. Because it's so light on plot and so heavy on character, you can start plugging in all kinds of worldviews and perspectives about our society, about life, about all kinds of things, and make up your own meaning to it. Now, in this case, there's so much discussion about money and resources and draining it and getting one over on people. It's really hard not to see this. I hesitate to call it a critique because I don't think there's a lot of good faith discussion about capitalism and free market ideology or any of that. It just seems like a straight up condemnation. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. Like, I won't get into all my views and opinions, but I have no problem looking at that and saying, you know what, there's a guy who's going around and he's taking from everyone. He refuses to let anyone take anything from him, to the point that his son, who owns half his business, wants to go and start his own. And I think any good parent, any good dad who's seeing his son saying, you made something for yourself, I want to do like you. I want to go make something for myself. They would be proud, right? You'd be like, man, I love that you're not just trying to live off and sponge off of what I did. And you're trying to make your own thing. That's amazing, son. Godspeed. Let me know if you need advice. And what does he says? Oh, you're my competitor. Like, he just hates it.
Yeah.
Disowns them. Literally tells them, you're not my son at all, actually. You never have been. From the day you were born, you were never mine. And how insane is that? You've raised him. You've poured all your resources and actual love, as much as you have to give. You poured it into him. And now you're completely disowning it. Oh.
It's unbelievable. Like it's so uncomfortable. The whole movie is so uncomfortable, and it all leads to the very end. Which, you want to talk about the very end?
Yeah, so he gets this guy who crawls up out of nowhere pretending to have it all together. And that's the funny topsy-turvy of this whole sequence, because when Eli visits him, Daniel literally is passed out in the gutter. He's in the gutter, which is perfect symbolism for where he's at in his life, you would think. But in reality, Eli himself is in the gutter, and he's come begging. But the way they represent it visually is as if Daniel's the one who's struggling, who's got no meaning in life, right? He's just surrounded by food and drink and excess. And here comes this pastor who should be offering salvation, who should be offering something of the Spirit. And instead, he's coming to negotiate money, a resource that he has to offer, this resource that he knows that Daniel has been wanting this whole time. And he's like, I'm going to give it to you. I'm the one, right? And then as the scene progresses, we realize very quickly that Daniel's the one who has everything he needs, everything he wants, right? He's eating. He's sitting there eating, and there's so many little beautiful symbolisms in this scene, because whenever he finally wakes up and he goes and sits, and the first thing that Eli does is he goes and pours a drink, 3, offers 1 to Daniel. And what's so delicious about that sequence is Eli is offering to Daniel what is Daniel's.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel's like, nope, you're not going to do that in my house. You're not going to come and offer me things that I own as if you own them, which is technically what Eli does with his church. He's offering to people what is already theirs, and he's taking advantage of people's faith and belief and hope. And what we've seen historically is when someone came along in Daniel's life and offered him something that he wanted, right? Hope. He needed family. He really was like struggling because he just lost his son, and he was really needing a sense of family. And his brother Henry comes along and makes him believe, and he's vulnerable with him. He's really sharing with him like his resources, and he's not judging him for being a loser and for needing anything at all. And whenever he realizes this isn't his brother after all, he got taken advantage of. This guy came along and saw a need and manipulated them, and he just puts a bullet in his head and buries him on this land, Bandy's land,
which is like crazy. That whole scene is crazy. The camera does almost nothing, and then when he shoots him, it's not like a normal, you shoot somebody and they're just dead. Like, he shoots him in a way where he doesn't die right away, but he will die, right? He shoots him in the head, but it's kind of like not directly. It's like kind of off. It seems like it's off kilter. So he's just kind of like writhing there. It's so visceral and real feeling. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
No, it is. It's super visceral because when that moment hits, it's so beautifully choreographed, because you think he's dead, and then he starts writhing. You're like, wait, did he shoot him or did he scare him? And then he puts the gun back to his temple. You're like, okay, now he's going to kill him. And then you realize, no, he's just making sure he's dying. And then he doesn't shoot him again. He just watches him. He wanted to see him suffer a little bit. And it's so wonderful. He stacks all these moments like this throughout the movie to build tension. I mean, it's how we open the film. We open with this guy digging, goes down into this well, inserts a bunch of dynamite, lights it, crawls out, starts trying to pull the bucket. And now you have, this thing that Hitchcock talks about tension. There's surprise, if you have two men at a table and they're talking, and then, a minute goes by and then suddenly explodes, you have surprise, but you don't have tension. Whereas if you see these two guys talking and then you reveal there's a bomb underneath the table and then you tilt up to watch these guys talking, now you have tension. And now you're waiting for the bomb to go off. Literally, that's what he does here. Like, he shows a batch of dynamite get lit, and now we're watching this guy struggle to get it. And we don't know what's going to happen. It's like, is it going to take him with it? Like, and it's just creating all this question and tension within you. And now, ultimately, nothing happens. It's fine. Except he goes back down the hole and he breaks his leg because the dynamite weakened the stairs, and now he's like hurt himself for being myopic or whatever you want to call it. And so we constantly are building these little moments of tension. The same thing with that gun scene you're talking about, shooting the Henry. And now we're getting to the end of this film where we've been seeing flashes of violence, and we don't know. I don't know if we're expecting him to just start battering this guy to death, but we're also not sure what this guy's capable of anymore because he just disowned his son for reasons that are bonkers to us. And here we are now watching him dangle a carrot and then reveal there is no carrot. Like, it's brutal. Yeah, I don't know. I drink your milkshake. I drink it up. It's a crazy scene.
All the way. Just so much tension.
And it's over the top.
You have no idea what's going to happen.
It's over. Drainage. Like, it's so over the top that I think Paul Thomas Anderson loves to find humanity in his characters. And in a movie, we're really not used to seeing that. We're used to seeing lines delivered and perfectly crafted moments by actors and the performances, and all that works. Like, there's a reason I'm going to watch Braveheart 1,000 times more before I die. Like, it works, even though he's delivering these perfect speeches and whatever. Yet, real humanity is full of foibles. Like, it's full of, like, people saying inarticulately the things they think and feel, and being a little weird and zany whenever they're upset. And we get to the end of this film, and it is over the top. It's so quirky. And yet, to me, it also feels honest in its own way. Whenever this guy has no reason to pretend to be composed anymore, he's got all the money in the world. No one can hold anything over his head. He bashes him to death, and then he has his servant clean it up. Like, and that shot of him, this preacher bleeding out, food all over the place, alcohol all over the place, games, like he treated life like a game, right? I don't know if that's the real symbolism there, but I think it's fair to throw it out there. Like, he was bowling for violence because bowling probably lost its flavor. Like, once you've bowled 1,000 strikes, like, what else is there? Like, and he kind of asked that question and to the oil men, right? Standard Oil is wanting to buy up his land and give him we'll make you a millionaire from one moment to the next. Just say the word. And he says it point blank. And then what would I do with myself? Well, take care of your son. Whoa, you're going to regret that. But then what? What would I do with myself? He has nothing left to live for. The only thing left that's the highest stakes of all is life and death. It's to just play with people's lives, I guess. I don't know. You can draw your own conclusions, and this is why I think it's such a condemnation of capitalism. Is it's saying that once people have everything in the world and there's nothing left, they just want more. And there is no satisfying them. It's just a matter of, will you put yourself in their crosshairs? I guess. I don't know. Again, it's all, you make what you want of this movie. It's your own Etch-a-Sketch. Like, just whatever you want, man. Whatever you want.
Yeah. I feel like when I watch it, I for some reason, I just don't even attach anything to it. Like, it feels like I don't know, a story. I don't know how any other way to put it. Like, there's all these other, anytime I watch another film, like I'm looking for meaning like that too. And when you tell me we have these episodes and you mention things about naming conventions and all this stuff, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I totally can see that. And I just don't see anything here. Like, yes, of course there is probably, reference to, because it's so heavily focused on religion and on violence, and having basically, a failed version of God and a failed version of the devil, and they meet, and what does that look like? I just don't see that when I'm watching it.
Yeah.
I just am seeing things happen, and this guy reacting to these things, and how he's reacting is my entertainment. Like, whether that's violent, it's curious, it's questioning, it's plotting, it's just his reactions to things. I mean, I think this is just like a great example of why acting is reacting. That whole, the nomenclature of that great actors don't act, they react. And it feels like that in his character. And this whole thing is written around him reacting. And he does such an incredible freaking job that I just love watching him. Even when he does really terrible things, and I can't believe that he's doing these things, and it hurts my heart to watch him do these things, not just for the people he's doing them to, but also for him, because it feels like he's just like dying more and more, killing himself more and more, his humanity. I just cannot help but watch it, and I feel nothing else. I almost, it's almost like, so one of my favorite bands is Sigur Rós, and I have no idea what they say because they sing in Icelandic, and I don't want to know what they say because I feel like it'll ruin the experience of listening to the music. And I feel like that with this film, it's like, I don't even want to know what it's supposed to be about. And that's fine. You and I can talk about it.
Sure.
I want to know what you think, but I don't want to ever have that conversation because, me and PTA, we're on a, first name basis, and we call each other every Friday. But I don't want to have a conversation with PTA and have him tell me what this scene meant or what he was trying to say. I just want to have it for myself. And it's almost like, if you go to therapy, you don't really say, I'm going to therapy. You just kind of do it. And it's for yourself. It's for your, it's your thing. I feel like that's what this movie is a little, it's weird. I'm comparing it to therapy. It just is a thing for me. And I can watch it and just be the weirdo who enjoys watching this terrible movie. But I have a question for you. So you haven't seen this for 18 years. And then you watch it, which is wild to me. You watch so many movies and rewatch so many movies. How could this have been the second time you've seen this movie? You said you had a similar reaction to it as the first time. Does that mean that it's really hard to rewatch and you wouldn't want to rewatch it again? Or does that mean, do you see something different in this movie now than you did 18 years ago? You're a different person, very different person.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I will say there's so much, I forgot like 90% of this movie. For some reason in my head, I thought Paul Dano's character was HW. I thought that was him growing up. Like, I just tangled so much in my head. And so revisiting it now, once a couple scenes get going, I'm like, oh, right. And then the rest kind of unlocks. But revisiting it was really trippy because I couldn't remember what drove the story. And coming in now as, a much more seasoned writer and having done 300 episodes, I started looking for like act breaks and things like that. Like, okay. And for act breaks, like that's not something I really care about, generally speaking, but it's interesting to know when something kicks off. And that's usually what separates the first and second act, is what is the movie really going to be about. The first act is just kind of setting up, and then you'll know the second act starts when you find out the stakes and what we're really trying to do here. And so I was just kind of lightly paying attention to that, but I found myself so engrossed. Like, this guy broke his leg and now he's about to drag himself, and that shot, that reveal of the tilt up to reveal the mountains, and you're just like, oh God, this is how he's rolling like for the next, who knows, like 50 miles, like who knows how far away he is. I think it was still maybe not quite as hard as the first time, and maybe it kind of goes back to something we talked about in recent weeks about the story in your head is so much worse than the story is on the page or in the film. I was just like, okay, maybe this isn't quite as brutal, because I think I expected this to be more dry than it was, and not quite as compelling to watch because of how little story there is to work with. And it's 2.5 hours, and hitting play on a 2.5 hour movie is always going to be a challenge. I don't care what movie it is. And so, yeah, I think it was hard. I don't know if maybe it'll be another 18 years, to be honest. Whereas the same thing actually happened with No Country, where I hadn't watched it probably since it came out. And then I rewatched it and I was like, oh no, I'm rewatching this again within the next few weeks. Like, I just can't wait to revisit this. This, I don't know if I'm so excited to do again, unless it's to study Daniel Day-Lewis or to study a character study. Like, if I was going to do a bunch of character study, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch Rocky, which I've done recently, just to see how it functions. Because that's another character study movie where you're just there to see this person and a million different facets. And now these are wildly different characters, fundamentally, not just as like one's about boxing, one's about oil, but like fundamentally they're different humans, and you get to see how they're different, which is pretty funny too when you think about Rocky as a violent character, right? He's supposed to be this boxer and he's full of violence, and yet he's not. And now you're watching this businessman who's supposed to be about business, a free market. This drives me nuts. And this is why I watch some politicians completely ruin the economy, because they think business is about what you extract from other people. And it's not. It's about what you give other people. And it's about what you value and what they value, and how it's a plus game. It's not a zero-sum game where someone wins over the other person and, oh, my win is your loss. It's not a game of loss. It's about a game of winning. Like, I had a neighbor who came through a couple years ago. I was thinking about this morning as I made a latte, and this neighbor knocks on my door, and it's so funny because it's this guy I'd never met before. I see him with his son all the time, and he's teaching his son to skateboard out in the parking lot. And it's pretty cool because he'll just be laying in the parking lot watching his son skateboard. And it's so cool. And one day this guy knocks on my door, and I look through the eye hole and I see this whole family standing outside. And he says, "I'm an oil man. This is my family." And
oh my God, slam your door fast.
And he's standing out there with his wife and with his other kids, and he's got his son in front of him, and he's like, "Hey, this is my son, and we're working on getting him to be a little bit more sociable and work on his social skills a little bit." And part of the game here is he's got a coffee cup, and we're just going to go around and see what we can trade up for. And so, is there anything and it's okay if not, and so, son, ask him. And he's like, I have a coffee cup. Is there anything you would trade for my coffee cup? And I was like, actually, yeah, give me 1 second. And I slammed the door in their faces and I never returned. No. I just start to watch and see how long they'll wait. No, I run to my room, and I've had this thing in my closet. It's an alarm clock, but it's a sunrise alarm clock that I bought like a decade ago. And it slowly brightens up. If you're familiar with this alarm clock, when I bought it, it was like $120. And you set it for whatever, 5 a.m., right? And the sun rises at 7, but your body naturally wakes up to light. So as the sun is rising outside, it starts to trigger, all these things in your body to react so that you gently wake up. And this alarm clock echoes that. It recreates this experience so that you can gently wake up on your schedule. And so I go and I'm like, I had an ex who gave me this alarm clock, and I wanted to use her alarm clock instead of my own. And I was like, this has just been sitting there. It's probably worth $100. I don't know what it is now, but I'll take your coffee cup and you can have my alarm clock. And they were like, whoa, okay, well, that's not what we expected, but thank you. It's like, cool. And I was thinking about it this morning because I use that little 50-cent coffee cup to heat my milk for my latte. I pour it in and I have a little steamer and it's, steams, froths my milk. And I use it every day, and I get so much more value out of that little 50-cent coffee cup than I ever did out of my alarm clock. That's a win-win. They didn't get one over on me. I won that negotiation because I got something I valued, and they got something they valued that hopefully they went and traded up and, I don't know, got a car. Whatever you do with the next step of that isn't really my concern, but that's what good negotiate. And we're watching this guy negotiate around the world with this really bad mentality, and I'm watching Daniel Plainview do the same thing, right? And it's so interesting to watch two different character studies. One that's about someone who resists their violence, and another person who should not be using violence at all, because it should just be offering people what they want and getting what you want, and everybody wins. And yet, because his mentality is broken, all he's doing is breaking people along the way. He breaks his family apart. And to that end, you mentioned the naming convention, and I was like, there is some interesting naming conventions in here, because you have his dad's name is Ernest, right? And he apparently, broke away, doesn't keep in touch with his dad. And so he kind of lost touch with Ernest, right? That's a symbolic gesture towards his inability to be earnest with other people. And his brother comes pretending to be the son of Ernest as well. And he's not, right? He's a liar. He kills his son, or kills his faux brother. And then you have Eli, whose brother was Paul. Paul gets out. Paul was earnest. He was very straight dealing. He man of his word, and he takes his money and he goes away. Now their dad, his name was Abel, right? And what famous biblical caricature about brothers and Abel can you think of, right? Cain and Abel. And so it's this really broken, interesting version of a Cain and Abel story, because to your point, like you have a fallen angel and you have a bad devil who can't really come together. And I think this is a Cain and Abel story on that level, where you get to the end, and that's what Eli says: we're brothers, not just friends, we're brothers. And what happens? He gets slaughtered. And that's the Cain and Abel story. It was the one of jealousy, right? Where one brother was a farmer and the other was a sheep herder, and one couldn't grow anything to save his life and murdered his brother because God liked his offering more than he liked his own. And so it was a one of jealousy and blood and lust. It's just disgusting that you would do this to your brother. And of course, we're watching that whole story play out here, where one can't tend to his sheep. He can't get his sheep to produce anything. And he just, now you have someone who is farming and getting something out of the farmland that he couldn't himself get. Right? He went into his own farmland and took it. And he had sold it off. I mean, there's all kinds of biblical, ancient, Abrahamic stuff going on in this story. Whenever you think about, is it the story of Joseph? Not Joseph, maybe before that, who sold his birth. Yeah, Esau and Joseph. Esau sold his birthright, I think. And
oh, right. Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, I'm probably butchering the names here, but the same idea. Sold his birthright. Someone else came in, maximized it, drained it, and then he's jealous and upset because he couldn't do it himself, and he got taken advantage of. And it's so funny because Eli starts blaming his dad. He starts blaming Abel when it was Eli there doing the negotiating.
Mm-hmm. I know. When that happened, I'm like, what are you doing? You're the idiot that brought him here.
And so he just has no capability of ownership and taking responsibility, which you can paint whatever brush you want onto that story of pastor in a church, the third revelation. Yeah, anyway, so there's a lot of interesting symbolism that they're playing with here that I find. Jacob, it's Esau and Jacob. And so anyway, I love how much you can pull out of this, and I would be interested to know how Paul Thomas Anderson went about writing it, because it says based on Upton Sinclair, the novel Oil, which I imagine there's very little of this within Oil, but I haven't read Oil, so I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I don't know. It's deep, and yet it's not pertinent, right? You don't need any of that.
Yeah. Right. And that's the interesting thing to me, that the reason why I could watch it right now again, because of just like I guess, I don't know, the passive ingestion of a story is very appealing to me sometimes. Sometimes I really like going down the rabbit hole of like, oh, this has this meaning, and this, like we watch Sunset Limited and I'm just like in it because of the meaning, or, Eternal Sunshine or whatever. But in this case, I just am not attaching anything to it. I'm just experiencing it and ingesting it, and I just love it because of that. I don't know. To me, it's freaking flawless. I can't think of anything that I would change. The point is to talk about something brutal, of people being brutal in a brutal time. And I totally agree with you that I hate this era in films. I hate this location in films. When you said that, I was like, oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I hate it, which is makes it all the more weird as to why I love this movie so much.
Yeah.
Because, I think it's just the reason I might not like it is because nothing really, it takes a long time for things to happen. And then there's a lot of characters usually in like Western kind of style films or whatever, but I don't give a shit about any other characters except for Daniel. And he's in every shot of every scene. He's just always there,
Yeah.
So, and it's Daniel Day-Lewis, so I'm like completely entertained. And it's not trying to do a bunch of stuff either.
Yeah.
We open with nothing. There's no words. Like, I'm just experiencing the hard work this guy's putting in, and that's it. And then I also love the camera movements when he goes and saves his son, and he's running with his son to the house. Like, you see concern and worry and love for his son, while the oil is gushing. And so he's happy that they hit oil, but like he's more concerned about his son. And obviously that changes, but everything just coalesces in this film for me in such a beautiful way, from the writing to the cinematography to the acting, to the blocking. And I just can't get enough of it. It's such a great just lesson. You watch Hitchcock for lessons. You brought up Hitchcock earlier, which is brilliant, by the way. And I think this movie has so much of that in it. Even if you don't like the story, you can watch it for the lighting, or you can watch it for the camera angles, or you can watch it for the pacing of a slow movie, right? This movie is long, and it's slow, and it's quiet at times, and why does it work still?
I know. That drives me nuts.
I don't know. I might have to watch it like 5 more times. I don't know. The only thing I could say is the amalgamation of all those things, of the lighting and the cinematography, which puts you in it, in the world, and then the acting, which keeps you there and draws you further in. And then the things that happen when they do, like, how long do we stay on this guy? Well, what's he doing? Well, okay, he's thinking of something, or he's realizing something. We got to give him time to realize. If we cut away, we lose the realization, right? If we cut, like the scene of him sitting on the beach with his brother, you talked about it earlier, when he has the realization, we don't leave. We stay there for an awkward amount of time while Daniel realizes this is not his brother. And that is fantastic editing. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Film is an editing medium. Like, that's what it is. And this is such a perfect example of that. Don't leave. Don't leave. Hang out. There it is. Like, I mean, this is why I love movies, is for that, someone like PTA to see that moment and to say, that's what I want in the movie. Obviously you got to get it, and Daniel Day gives it to you, but to have the balls to say, we're not going to cut away for an entire minute while we just stay here, and the camera doesn't move, and his brother blocks the camera a little bit at times, and anyway, I'll stop.
So good.
But
my last thought was just as you were talking about camera angles and whatnot, I don't know if it's my favorite shot, but it's one that always just sticks out to me while I'm watching it. After HW loses his hearing, takes him to the doctor. The doctor's checking his ears out. I love this little shot, the scene, because he's got his son pinned down and he's wrestling against him. The camera's whipping around, trying to keep up with the doctor, who's inspecting the ears. And it just looks like he's an animal. Like, the kid looks like livestock in this shot. And I think it's not unintentional that he's treating it this way, right? And that we're trying to get this idea across that this is just another possession of his. And that's, at the end of the day, all it is. He's, in his heart, he might want it to be more, but he can't let it be more. And that's his conflict. That's his thing that he's wrestling with when he says, I have a competition in me, and he hates it in himself, and yet he refuses to change. Ugh. It's good stuff, man.
So good.
What are you gonna?
So good, man.
So good. What are you gonna recommend this week?
This week, I am gonna recommend a movie that we just happened upon the other day. I've seen before, but we were trying to find a family movie to watch, and we happened upon this, and Jenny said, "Oh, let's watch that." And the kids were like, "No, I don't want to watch it." And she said, "Don't watch the trailer, just put it on." And they loved it. 50 First Dates.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which I don't know how long it's been since you've watched that movie, but it is fantastic. It is hilarious. It's so well written and well acted, and it's beautiful and it's just a great idea for a story and proof that love can exist, and an example of it, like true love, and just and I look at my wife and I think how am I doing enough? Am I convincing you that we're married and have kids every single day that you wake up?
Wow.
Maybe I'm not doing enough. And the kids loved it. That was the other thing. Because, they love animated videos, movies and stuff and everything, but they had never seen an Adam Sandler movie.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't know the premise behind it.
So they get surprised,
just 50 First Dates,
just like he does.
Uh-huh. Yes. And Simon even said, my son said, I'm so glad I didn't watch the trailer, because I thought it was going to be about one thing, and then I learned, a quarter of the way into the movie that it's about something completely different. And then you're thinking, okay, well, how do they overcome this? Oh my gosh. And they just deal with it. It's like just part of their life. And he loved learning that, going on that journey about that movie. So back to the intro to the podcast of trailers giving away movies.
Well done.
You know, I guarantee that trailer would give away what the movie is about. And that's, you know, half of the reason why he loved it. So yeah. 50 First Dates.
Nicely done. I'm going to recommend a movie that is a bit of a character study, but also fairly plot driven. If it's Winter's Bone. If you've never seen it, then you really don't know why Jennifer Lawrence became Jennifer Lawrence. She's so good. And this was her breakout role, this little small indie film that made everyone kind of sit up and be like, oh, damn, who is she? Because she's playing like a 17-year-old dealing, I forget, it's like in Oklahoma or something, like a meth county. And she's going through trying to, I forget some of the plot elements, but I do remember how compelling she is. And I'm forgetting his name, Teardrop. But great film and just a patient story. Like you got to be patient, but it's really intense. If you enjoyed the kind of tension that you get from There Will Be Blood, you'll get a lot of tension out of Winter's Bone. So yeah, check that out and stay tuned for next week. We go once more to Mission Impossible to see The Final Reckoning. Yeah, well, we'll see what's going on there with old Tommy. And don't forget...
Final for 10 years, and I'm sure they'll do it one more.
Exactly, absolutely.
You know? Can't keep them away.
Cannot. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget, subscribe, drop us a review, leave us a note, something you want us to cover. And if you want to leave a comment on this episode, you can do that at thepestlepodcast.com/therewillbeblood.
This is such a good quote. Our quote of the day is from Upton Sinclair. It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Man.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's a great quote. It's like his most famous quote, I believe. I haven't read any of Upton Sinclair's books. It's just none of it's really ever popped up on my radar. His name has, of course. And this quote I've heard a million times. And it's so pointed because it speaks to incentives. Like it's easy to look at this film and talk about, you know, big oil, and how in the 70s, right, they figured out, oh man, we're going to wreck the world, through, you know, heating and pollution and all kinds of ways. And then they buried it, right? They buried it, unlike all the oil they excavate. And it's easy to be like, why didn't they do the right thing? It's because they had so many incentives to not do the right thing. And so I don't know how you get around that. Maybe there is no way. Like maybe we're all dealing with this thing that requires us to act against our own interests. And I don't know. But worth keeping in mind whenever you're doing any self-analysis. Like, am I doing what's convenient? Am I doing what's temporary for the sake of like, I just trying to get by? And I don't know. I don't think there's necessarily any shame in that. There's no de facto, you know, it's all circumstantial. It's all contextual. I have no problem looking at politicians who are doing what's best for them, despite being elected to do what's best for us. Yeah, I don't know. It's worth thinking about whenever you're analyzing a given situation. Like, is this person saying what they're saying because they're incentivized to say that, or because the facts or the logistics bear out, you know, what they're saying? I don't know. It's food for thought. It's not me trying to pass judgment on anything in particular.
Yeah. Agreed. Amazing. We got through it.
We did.
We got
somehow.
Through it. Thank you guys for staying with us through this journey. And please subscribe, review us wherever you get your podcast, share us with your friends. And if there's a film you'd like to see us talk about, pick apart, please share it with us. Who knows? Maybe one day we will cover it. Until next time, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies.
I drink your milkshake.